So here's the sketch that I got for the strength card. I'm going to give a little bit of a tour. He's looking pretty over here. He's got his cool armor on. You can see, like, this is a 11 by 14 sheet of paper. I work in mechanical pencil. This is relatively clean for me, drawing-wise. You can see that there's, like, a lot of construction marks. I don't bother erasing any of that shit. I think it adds flavor. And there's just, like, a level of precision that you can see that I'm able to, like, carve the features with that is just not possible for me digitally. So, like, you know, you've seen me doing dailies and stuff. Like, it's just never that tight. But, like, even if you're using, like, a digital brush in your sketching, you never have marks that, like, you can see these little tails and things. You're never going to get that in Procreate. It just won't happen. And so, like, if you're really confident with a pencil, you can get all kinds of, like, super micro marks that happen naturally through, like, the confidence of your hand that just, like occur as part of the process, which is always beautiful to see. And I just find it so much easier working like this. So one of the things to notice is that, like, I don't actually like create a composition when I'm doing drawings. I just focus on, like, the design and the structure. There's even, like, anatomical problems, like the proportion on, like, the arm and the, like, the perspective on it isn't quite right. And I'm just like, I'm gonna do it I'm gonna do it well enough for what I feel like I need, but I'm open to changing those things, whether I'm skewing them or redrawing stuff. But this is really just like a starting point and, like, a kind of, like, structure to, like, build on. So my first step is usually, my first step is I'm going to be tearing out all the white and leaving just the lines. And then the second step is going to be to put this up onto an actual, like, canvas where I'll start the process of composing it. Yeah, I've already got this thing saved as a JPEG. This thing's at 600 DPI, so it's already, like, pretty big. 8400 pixels by 6400 pixels. So double clicking background. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to try to get rid of as much of this texture as I can, because, like, I'm going to try to delete out whatever's purely white, but I don't want to be leaving, like, all this grain here. So I'm going to be getting rid of things, like, I'm just going to be blasting anything I don't want on here with pure white. So, like, my signature, any, like, bits of crap that are, like, on the scanner. Like, sometimes because, like, the edges of the scanner, like, turn the page up, like, I get, like, dark corners. I want to get rid of those. I'm going to, like, hit Control L to try to level adjust this to get the lines closer to black, which makes it look less pencil-y and nice. But, you know, this is all going from, like, its own little perfect artifact to being part of a larger process. So we're going to lose some of the character along the way. And then the right handle here on the levels, I'm pulling up until it gets, like, down to the base of this hockey stick, because all of this block up here represents all the different light tones, because it's on the right side. And so this is all the paper grain. So this is me blowing out the paper grain and pushing it to pure white. And I want to try to get as much value range as I can out of the lines beyond that. And I don't want to lose any lines, but I do want to get rid of as much of that grain as I can. The other thing I can do to get rid of errant marks and grain is I pull up the dodge tool, which is, like, under here along with the dodge, the burn, and the sponge tool. And then I set the range to highlights. And when the range is set to highlights, it's going to brighten the lights more than it's going to brighten any of the darks. So it will take, like, little errant marks and bits of dust and remaining pieces of paper grain, and it will push them to white really easily, while it'll, like, not do so much to the darker bits in the line. You see, as I go through here, as I, like, use the dodge tool, it'll leave the darkest areas while preserving, while eliminating some of the lighter marks. So I can use this to clean up a few of, like, the errant bits. Like, I've got a piece of, sometimes it's hard to tell if it's on your monitor or if it's on the scan, but it's just keeping things a little cleaner that way. If I want to check to see how much grain I have, I can make an adjustment layer for levels and then turn the darks all the way up. and you can see once you get things smushed all the way up at the top there, you can actually see, like, I can turn this on and off, but I can see where I've got extra grain. So if I hit the layer underneath with the dodge tool, you can see how I can actually like spot and eliminate any little bits of grain that are close to white but not quite white. So they're not even visible on the monitor, but they're still visible if I exaggerate the overall look of it. So if I want to just clean this up a bit, I can give it a little tippy tap. I usually don't work this hard, but if you feel passionately about it, this is the solution. Especially if you actually have clean lines, which I don't. All right. So now we've got a drawing where it's like pure white with just pencil sketch. And so from here, we're going to just do some magic hotkeys. You could probably program this to be like a single Photoshop action. I might actually make a Photoshop action out of it and share it. But to slow it down, to explain what I'm doing here, if you go to channels, you can see that there's like 4 channels here, RGB, then red, green, and blue. And they all have little markers next to them, control 2, 3, 4, 5. This is like all the different color channels separated. And you can see if you turn on only 2 of the color channels, you get this kind of like odd, you know, this is what the thing looks like with the red taken out. It's all cyan in the background. But you can actually select the RGB channel. If you control click it, it's the same as the hotkey that I'm doing, which is control alt 2. And it creates a selection throughout the entire canvas. You could see these like marching ants everywhere. And they're like kind of accumulating near the darker areas. What it's doing is it's selecting every pixel based off of its value. So a white pixel is getting selected 100%, a black pixel 0%, and then all the gray values in between, which there's 255 gray values. It'll select it, you know, some value between 0 and 255. So a perfect 50% gray pixel will be selected 50%. So we have this like dynamic selection that is selecting every pixel based off of its like lightness or darkness. And then we just hit delete. And this will fully delete out the white. It will not touch any of the blacks, and it's going to halfway delete all of the grays. So then I'm going to hit Control D to deselect, which I think if you want to do it the manual way, it's under the select here, deselect, Control D. And then we've got we're about halfway there. See, it looks perfectly fine, more or less fine, with a white background. But if we invert this background, you can see that the lines are actually, the gray lines are still gray. It's gray lines against a black background. The gray values are still, they're 50% transparent, but they're still 50% gray. So the darkest marks still look like dark lines, but the in-between ones are kind of like gross looking, and this is not useful to us. So what we're going to do is we're going to lock the opacity of the layer. You can do that by hitting the little checker box here next to where it says lock on the layers tab, or you can hit the question mark. That'll also lock that. And then we are going to fill this layer with black. The way to do it with hotkeys is you can hit D to make default colors, which is black foreground, white background. That's how you can select black if you ever need it really fast. And then Alt backspace to fill. There's also, I mean, you can, I think Shift F5 also does fill, and then you can choose foreground color. There's a lot of different ways to do a fill. Alt backspace is the hotkey, I know. And then from there we have now a perfect lines, exactly the same lines from the drawing, dynamically selected down to every single individual pixel. And then now they are 50% transparent where they used to be 50% gray, fully transparent where they used to be white, and then fully opaque where it used to be black. So it's like exactly what you would want if you were ever to want to paint underneath it. So if we wanted to start laying down like a base color here, like, you know, we now have like this perfect line drawing that is interacting exactly the way that we would hope for. in order to treat it like a coloring book. So going through it one more time really quick, it's like it's a Control Alt 2 for the selection, delete, Control D to deselect, D to get back to solid black, Alt backspace, whoop, question mark to lock the layer, Alt backspace to fill, and then you can unlock it by hitting that. And then I can either like make the composition here, or I can make a brand new canvas at a particular size and then drag my image into here. So if I wanted to make this at a particular resolution, like let's say I want this to be a 18 by 24 inch painting at 300 dpi, I can set that up, and then I can copy the content of this layer over and bring it into my new composition. And then I'll have a nice clean start to build my composition from a perfectly cleaned up drawing. Image size. What's this resolution? 5400 by 7200. Great. So now I have a perfect composition that's exactly the right size, where the drawing is fully separate, and I've got this perfect clean slate to be able to begin my paintings on. This is how I basically start every single painting. It's a little bit of messing around with dials and knobs to get things going. A little bit technical, but if you do it a few times and you develop muscle memory for it, like once you have a sketch that you like, then you are just a few steps away from being able to like put it into a nice digital canvas and be able to work with it. And you also have like a good high resolution scan of it. I keep the high resolution scan as a separate file, so it's in my archives if I ever need it for anything. And then I have a traditional original that if this becomes somebody's favorite painting, the value of this drawing is very high to them. And so it can be, having this traditional sketch as part of like my workflow gives me this like nice valuable little offshoot.